What's going on, everybody? Howard Bender and Craig Mish here for the Pickswise High Stakes live stream. This is where Craig and I make our picks for the Golden Nugget Ultimate Football Challenge, which we've been competing in all season long, as well as the Westgate SuperContest. Now, obviously, some lines move, some don't. So, these picks here are for these specific contests, but you can kind of figure out where the value is or to be had. On your own right there. So, Craig, hi, how are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you? Good to see you. Ready to make some picks. Hey, we're
ready
doing
to make
well.
some picks.
We're having a good year. How's everything going?
Spectacular. Well, I mean, listen, we need a big week here for the Golden Nugget. We need a big week if we want to hit that cash line. We are doing well in the SuperContest. Yeah. This is probably the best that we've ever done right now.
It is the best.
So 3-2 last week. I definitely want to turn it around. But what I love also is that I think we're doing a great job of making picks that nobody else is making or that very few people are making. We're hitting on them, and then that's pushing us up even further in the standing. So some contrarian work here being done, which makes me happy.
Yeah, and I
Can't
think
you tell?
Yeah, no, I mean, you look thrilled. But yeah, I think that, looking back on the season as we close out college football in particular with the Golden Nugget contest, a little bit up and down, to say the least, that's for sure. But the college football season has been pretty unpredictable, I would say, from the beginning of the season, where people thought the final four teams would finish and actually where they are right now. Certainly we'll talk about the SEC championship, but there are some really good games. There's actually a game going on right now, too, as well. So we'll break those down for you, but only 10 games in college that we had to choose from, unless we would have picked games for Friday, which we did not do. We chose to just use the Saturday slate. And then, of course, we incorporate the NFL. So in the end, probably not going to cash in the Golden Nugget, but still time, as we've been over 500 3 weeks in a row, to really make our mark at the end of the season. And as you mentioned, the SuperContest, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, only 6 or 7 games out of winning the entire thing. I mean, that's just insane. But it just goes to show you how many people you have to climb to win that thing. But only a few games out of cashing. So excited to go over it with you.
Well, what I love about our picks here, because, we only did 3 college for the Golden Nugget, and we're doing 4 pro for that. And then we've got 5 NFL for the SuperContest. I think that there are, some of the sharps will be on on some of the picks that we're coming through with here. But for the masses, I think we'll see on the opposite sides of these games as being some of the top picks in the consensus picks, in the consensus overall. So I feel good about that. Let's start off with the Golden Nugget. We'll start off in college, and let's start off with the biggest game on the slate. Georgia, 6.5-point favorites over Alabama. If Georgia wins, well, they just kind of cement themselves in as the number one overall for the national championship. Alabama needs the win to get in. They could let them in with a second loss, but I think there would be a crazy uprising amongst college football fans and pundits all around if that were the case. So Georgia minus 6.5 over Alabama. Craig, what side do you want to be on?
Yeah, and for our college picks this week, only 3, as we mentioned. So we're basically picking 30% of the board, which is usually not optimal, but that's kind of what we're up against here, having less picks. So the way that I look at this thing is more so an indictment on the Crimson Tide than it is on pro Georgia. Now, Georgia has dominated against the spread in most of the games they've played this year. Remember, they've been 20, 30, 40-point favorites in a lot of games. Alabama has as well. But clearly, I think watching that game in particular last week against Auburn really told the story. I think they had to use up basically every ounce of luck and energy to end up coming back and winning the Iron Bowl. And I don't know. I just don't feel, simply put, Howard, like this is Alabama's year, and I do think it's Georgia's. Now, that doesn't give me any indication that Georgia is going to roll when they play in the semifinal game or when they're going to roll when they play in the championship game, because we've seen crazy things happen, especially in the national championship game. Like, if I had to guess, I would say probably Georgia wins this game and covers. They probably win the semifinal game and cover. And then I probably would not take them in the championship game because I think they'd be too big of a prohibitive favorite. So for this one, though, in particular, they have the better defense. Their offense is pretty much on par with Alabama. And, the interesting thing about Alabama is their offensive line doesn't seem to be protecting as well as it usually does. Their running back, of course, left their last game. They don't have a good backup running back this year. A lot stacked up against Alabama. I do think Georgia wins, probably by 10 in a low-scoring game, maybe 27-17, something along those lines. And then Georgia becomes the number 1 seed. Provided that Oklahoma State wins, they probably move into the 4. If they don't, I don't know what happens. We'll just talk about it on Monday. So pick 1 will be taking Georgia.
All right, I like it. Second pick, we're going, excuse me, to the Big Ten championship here. Michigan, an 11-point favorite over the University of Iowa. I mean, listen, we've talked about the volatility at the top of the rankings for all of college football. The Big Ten, though, even more so, is probably so up and down here. Michigan, an 11-point favorite. We're tilting on Iowa though here and taking those points.
Big number here for Michigan to have to lay. In fact, probably the biggest favorite they'll be against a good team in any game this season. Now, look, they definitely showed up and came to play last week against Ohio State, and I take nothing away from the way they played there. And also, you really can't use the narrative that this is a trap game of some kind, because clearly Michigan is playing right now to potentially get a shot in that playoff and in the national championship. But I do think the number is too big. And although Iowa has really fallen apart down the stretch once they lost early in the season, remember they had the number 2 spot, believe it or not, back in October. They've really fallen apart. I don't think they win this game, but I do think they cover. I think they play defense well enough to stay in the game. Ohio State's defense really let them down last week. Shocking to see them give up 5 rushing touchdowns to the same player. I don't think that happens again this week. So again, Big Ten game, look for another low-scoring game, maybe even less in the SEC championship. I see somewhere along the lines of like 19-13, something like that, and I think Michigan will win, but I think Iowa will cover. This feels like a really big number.
All right, I love it. Finally, the third college game that we're going to take, we're going back to an old friend of ours. They've been so good to us throughout the year. Utah State, right, getting 5.5 points in this contest.
Yeah, and this is a really interesting game because San Jose State has 11 wins and Utah State has 9. Like, pound for pound, San Diego State is probably the better team, but that really doesn't matter this time of the year. And honestly, San Diego State's schedule has kind of been the same as Utah State's, and right now Utah State is playing better football. So another game I think that goes right down to the wire. The Aztecs don't blow anybody out, usually play in very close games, grind it out, play good defense. I said it with those two. Now, look, I'm predicting 3 unders, it sounds like here. In all likelihood, that's not going to happen in all 3 games. But I do think the Aggies keep this game close. They put up a 40 spot last week. I was really impressed. Mountain West Championship games tend to be close. And we're going to take another dog here in these games. I love doing this in the championship type games. Teams like the team that deserves to be there versus the team that, you're not so sure. Usually it's that just riding hot team that you want to keep on riding. So look for a extremely close one here, maybe a point or 2. I think this line is too high. I thought this one was going to be 3 or 4, and you're getting 5.5 taking Utah State. So dog here again. So 2 favorites in a dog this week in college football. As sadly we close out the college football season with this one. Army Navy next week, of course, but really this is it.
Go Navy. I don't even. I know they're going to run the ball a lot.
Both
in
teams.
That game. Both teams.
A lot. Yes, they will.
All right, so those are our 3 picks in college for the NFL games we're taking. We're going to start it off here in Atlanta. Tampa Bay coming into town. They're an 11-point favorite over the Falcons. Tampa Bay, number 1 run, or top run defense. I don't know if it's number 1 right now, but top run defense. The only player who's been doing anything for Atlanta so far this year has been Cordarrelle Patterson, running back, wide receiver hybrid. So, listen, Tom Brady on the road is not the same as Tom Brady at home. I mean, the home road splits are insane. They really are. I mean, you're talking about like 20 touchdowns at home to like 5 on the road in the same number of games. So, I look at this one here, and I agree with you. Tampa Bay on the road, it's a big number to cover for a divisional game. I'm curious as to how Atlanta's going to get it done, but I could see a backdoor cover here.
Yeah, I think even more than that. I think the Falcons have shown that when Patterson plays, they're really good against the spread. And a great example was last week where they had lost by like 100 points over 2 weeks, and they were the far superior team in that game last week, albeit against Jacksonville. So if everybody is looking to lay the Rams, who does Jacksonville play this week? Is it the Rams? The Rams play Jacksonville, right?
Yeah. That's a 12 and a half point spread right now.
And you hear everyone this week, oh, the Rams are going to kill them. The Rams are going to kill them. Well, I mean, the Falcons just took care of them last week too. So why can't they keep the game close against Tampa Bay? I don't see any reason why they can't. Winning the game outright, look, I'm not so sure that they have the weaponry to do that. But you said it at the beginning, divisional games, you tend to throw things out. Teams sort of know each other at that point. And do the Falcons win the game? I mean, I don't know. It'd take a lot of stones to predict that, but does feel like a big number. All we need to do is get one big Falcons turnover in the Bucs red zone and probably cover the game, if not win outright. So I feel like we've been on the Falcons pretty good this year and winning most of the time, either on or against them. And I think we should go back to it again and take them plus the points.
Then we are plus 11. All right, next game we're looking at here. It's our one favorite, actually, that we're taking. The only favorite that we're taking in the NFL. Hint, hint, wink, wink. What are my other picks? The Philadelphia Eagles, who may or may not be with Jalen Hurts. And I got to tell you, it doesn't really bother me all that much if it's Gardner Minshew or if it's Jalen Hurts. I think if it's Gardner Minshew, I think that, I think the receivers could actually end up doing a little bit better. I think Miles Sanders in the backfield could do a little bit better. The Jets are terrible. They're terrible. We're given 7 points here in the Nugget, and we're gonna lay that. I have no problem with that at all. Jets are terrible.
Yeah, and on top of it, the Eagles' history is really good in New York against the Jets. I think they've covered like 11 of the last 12 times they've played each other. And I know the historical data from 20 years ago isn't as relevant now. There's no doubt. I believe Hurts is going to play, by the way, just from a lot of the comments that he has made this week. And on top of it, if the Jets' defense was good, I'd be a little concerned. But this is the perfect matchup for Philadelphia, a team that is very inconsistent offensively, but has played pretty solid defense the entire season. On top of it, you look at what the Jets have done last week. They basically had to struggle to beat that hapless team in Houston. They got to be feeling really good about themselves right now and not worried about what happens this week. So we'll take the Eagles on the road. I got to tell you, laying 7 points for the home team at this point is a losing proposition across the board. But it sort of tells you something when the road team is 7-point favorites. So they're giving no respect whatsoever to the other team. So, yes, we will ride back with Philadelphia again. Good team against the spread and also a buy low opportunity on them.
Yeah, see, I think it's more about the buy low for me. It's, when you're talking about them losing to the Giants last week and then coming back and playing in the same stadium once again. So I like the Eagles pick there. Next pick, you and I were on this from moment one. Chargers, 3-point dog on the road going up against Cincinnati. And it's the age old, and we've done this whole narrative all season long, right? You've got the Chargers who are coming off of this terrible loss to Denver. Cincinnati's coming off of this absolute throttling of Pittsburgh, right? Well, it's a 3-point game. It's only a 3-point game. Now, I mean, listen, these two offenses are definitely matched up a lot better here. For me, it's the Chargers as an underdog. They seem to they play when they're an underdog. They don't show up properly when they're a favorite. So we're taking the Chargers against I think the Bengals could win this one. 2 point, 1 point. I don't care. Doesn't bother me. But I just don't think they're covering this spread.
The overreactions to the Bengals have been massive all season long. They've had these really huge wins. And then they've kind of gone back to who they are, which tells you what they are really at the end of the season. They're going to be 9-8, or they're going to be 10-7, somewhere along those lines, and they're probably going to lose in the first round of the playoffs. Look, the Chargers are certainly not as bad as they showed last week, but this is a little bit of an overreaction for me. Betting against the spread on the Chargers is a favorite. We talked about it. Horrible proposition. Siding with them when they're an underdog is a phenomenal proposition. I do think they win this game outright, and this is my favorite pick of the week. We'll take the Chargers plus the points.
Ooh, throwing down your favorite pick of the week on the Chargers. Would you take them in a survivor pool?
I mean, I'm not in one this year. I don't know what the other choices, what you would have
left.
I'm
in one, and right. I have those choices.
Left? What are your choices? Like
I could go Chargers. I could go Chiefs. I could go.
Oh, Chiefs. Forget it. Just sign it up. Just write it down.
Chargers, Chiefs, or Vikings. Vikings against Detroit. Chiefs against Denver. Come on, Denver's been like the upset special.
Stop. Andy Reid's like 1,000,000-0 off a bye, by the way, but I don't want to lay those points.
All right, last game here for the Golden Nugget. Our good friends, the Pittsburgh Steelers at home against the Baltimore Ravens. Steelers getting 4.5. We're taking the Steelers with the 4.5. This to me reads exactly like the game 2 weeks ago when we took the Steelers getting 5.5 against the Chargers, and it was just, it was that back and forth game that we were, that everybody was like, how the hell did the Steelers score so many points against the Chargers? Well, here you go. It's the same scenario here. I like the Steelers. Ravens haven't even been good covering spread all year.
No. And again, this is how you can finish your season above 500 if you follow along with what we're doing here, which is basically saying we understand the records of the teams. We know everybody who's on these teams, but what we're not going to do is we're not going to look at last week and use that as an indicator for this week. If you do that, you're going to get destroyed betting on sports and betting on the NFL. I mean, it is when they say it's a week-to-week league and someone says, oh, that's just a cliche, it is not. Is New England very hot? Have they been a great betting team? There is no question about that, right? Like, that has worked. Can we find a team that's lost 3 or 4 in a row against the spread? Yes, you can. But the rest of the league is the same, and they're all playing about the same. And so the Steelers are up, and the Steelers are down, and the Steelers are up, and the Steelers are down. And quite frankly, if you go back and look at the history of this game over the last decade, this game is always within 3, like every single time. So, of course, we're going to take the points here with Pittsburgh. I do think Baltimore is the better team. There is no doubt. The Baltimore is going further this season than Pittsburgh. But would it shock anyone to see Pittsburgh lose this game with Tucker kicking a field goal with no time left? Of course, that's what's going to happen at the end of this game. That is exactly what's going to happen. So Pittsburgh will keep it close. Pittsburgh may win, just like they almost beat the Chargers. People just forget that just happened 2 weeks ago. They look at Cincinnati and say, oh, they're terrible. Eliminate the previous week. I am telling you, you'll do a lot better with your picks if you do that. So let's take Pittsburgh again, plus the points.
Let's take Pittsburgh again, and we are. We're going to do it in both the Golden Nugget and the SuperContest. So Golden Nugget, here you go. Georgia minus 6.5, Iowa plus 11, Utah State plus 5.5, Falcons plus 11, Eagles minus 7, Chargers plus 3, and the Steelers plus 4.5. So there you go. 2 favorites, 5 dogs, and it makes me smile.
That's good.
Very much so.
Yep.
Looking at the Westgate, here we go. We're taking the Falcons again, and it's plus 11. We're only laying this. I love. We're only laying 6.5 now as the for the Eagles.
Yeah,
that makes me happy. We're getting 3 for the Chargers. We're getting 4.5s here for the Steelers. And then my favorite, the most dirty, disgusting pick of all possible times. And you can listen to me and John and Pemba discuss this on the Ante-Up podcast that we did. That's available on Spotify and iTunes and everywhere about it. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Yes, Seattle looked horrible. There is 0 pointing at Seattle as far as they're going to rebound. Russell Wilson ghosting DK Metcalf has fantasy owners bonkers out of their flipping minds right now. Meanwhile, San Francisco, the pre-snap motion is precision perfect. They look really great. Elijah Mitchell rushing for 100 yards. I want Seahawks plus 3.5. Why is it only 3.5? If San Francisco's so great, Craig, and Seattle's so bad, division game or not, why am I only looking at a 3.5 point spread here?
Because the teams are very similar. I mean, that's really what it is. The teams are very similar in nature, and San Francisco has played above their head for the past month. Thursday night was a great example of a game. Everyone is going to look at that game last night and say, Dallas was the better team. Dallas deserved to win the game. Dallas deserved to cover. The Saints were one touchdown from covering that game last night. This is the NFL. It is all within a score. So certainly there's a chance that San Francisco could win this game by 7 or 10. Of course it can happen. But history does tell you, once again, division game tends to be close. The Seahawks, another wonderful buy low opportunity. A team that isn't going anywhere this season, but still has the quarterback and receiver that can keep games close. San Francisco will have their best player not on the field, and Deebo Samuel, of course, on Sunday. I don't know that Deebo is worth more than half a point at this point. I don't think any receiver is. But you said it best. Like, if the 49ers are so good, shouldn't this line be 5.5, somewhere along those lines? And it's not. It tells you all you need to know. Seattle probably is going to win the game on Sunday. The line is telling me Seattle's going to win this and sort of like punch San Francisco right back in the face to where they should be, kind of put Seattle where they should be. Seattle is not as bad as their record has shown, but they're nowhere near a good team. But I don't think they finished the season, Howard, 4-13. Like, I don't think that's happening. So I expect a very close game. I actually expect Seattle's got a good shot to win this one.
There you go. What's the Seattle money line? Probably
140 is a guess, plus 140.
Right. See, I might do that. Listen, at worst, I felt like I was like, it's like 23-16 and Seattle like ties it up, or, and like leaves a little time there, and Robbie Gould kicks a game-winning field goal at the end. Either way, it doesn't matter to me. It's Seattle's covering this spread, and because everything says that they won't.
It does. Listen, San Francisco played against Arizona with Colt McCoy and lost by 30. This is the same team. This happened a few weeks ago. Like, it's amazing. I can't believe that. Can't get caught up on what you have just seen. And again, I don't want to say that in a vacuum that's the deal. Like definitely, like, somebody could counter this and say, well, I backed New England 4 weeks in a row, and they've got, yes, there are exceptions to every rule. Well, the Saints, I've been fading the Saints. Yes, that has been definitely the way to go. But what about the other 25 teams in the NFL? They're all sort of playing the same. They win, they lose. They win, they lose. They cover, they don't. That's what this has been. I mean, how do you explain the Giants being in a playoff position? How do you explain Washington being in a playoff position? This was not a conversation you could even have in September. We would not even be thinking about talking about that. And here we are again. So I love the contrarian approach on this, and playing in a contest such as this, we have to take some shots on some very low-end picked teams, and I would expect Seattle would be one of those. So Seattle, Pittsburgh. I mean, who in their right mind would take Pittsburgh, right? After seeing what they saw last week, that's what we'll do. We'll take Pittsburgh.
Nothing will make me happier than seeing Cincinnati, Baltimore, and San Francisco as 3 of the top 5 in the consensus at the end. That would make me.
I think if they would be, yeah. I don't know that Cincinnati may be one. I don't think. I think enough people understand the Baltimore-Pittsburgh rivalry that could be close. There'll be action enough, I think, on both sides in this contest.
Yeah. Any thoughts on, before we wrap this up here, the one game that I think we were kind of leaning towards that we didn't take was the Monday night game. The Bills laying 2.5 points to the Patriots.
Yeah, I probably would lean Buffalo. I think New England's run's got to come to an end, and this is the caliber of a team that it possibly could. But then you're going against the best trend in football, the best covering team. So it would be a lean only.
Yeah, it would be, I like the Bills in this one for sure. Again, TB12, his whole home road splits. Well, MJ10, it's doing the same exact thing there, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and look, on top of it, as I mentioned, something to think about from the Tuesday live stream is that my guess is outside of the Super Bowl, if Buffalo gets there, the Buffalo -2.5 will be the least amount they're favored in any game the rest of the season, all the way through the Super Bowl. That's my guess.
Well, all right. Well, that's going to do it for us here on the Pickswise live stream. Big thanks to all of you for watching, and if you've been tailing our picks, hopefully you got a big smile on your face. But for yeah, a big thanks to John and Pemba, our producer here. For Craig Mish, I'm Howard Bender. We'll catch you next time.